Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Bala Sahiti. I'm part of the larger AWS team here. And I welcome you all to AWS India Summit today. Hope you all had a great breakfast and in good spirits. Let's start the event. Okay, so we have sessions lined up on transformation of power sector to edtech transformation to citizen services revamping, and a lot of wonderful sessions are being lined up today. Right? But before we begin our sessions, a few housekeeping, just a couple of pointers, right? So if you haven't already done so, please download the AWS Events app from the Play Store, where you can provide your feedback for this session and the upcoming sessions of the track. And we at AWS take feedback very seriously, and that will be really helpful for us to plan our future sessions. And I request you all to silence your devices in case if you have already done so. And just a last pointer, this AWS session today is being recorded, and this recording would be available after a couple of weeks, right? So let's start our first session of this day. It's on reduce cost and increase efficiency with AWS Cloud. And for this session, I welcome onto the stage Sanjeev Kumar and Vikas Bhardwaj, Senior Solution Architects at AWS.
Everyone, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the AWS Summit New Delhi. Thanks for being present here today, and I'm really excited to be, with you today. Right? Today, I'm going to talk about how do we reduce cost and increase efficiency with AWS Cloud. The value of AWS Cloud is beyond infrastructure cost savings. A white paper by the IDC, a premier global market intelligence firm, shows that customers who migrated to AWS Cloud realized on average 51% reduction in the total cost of ownership. They also achieved 62% increased in the IT staff productivity and 94% reduction in the unplanned downtime. Today, as part of this session, we are going to cover the importance of evaluating a cloud migration decision, the business case methodology, how to reduce migration costs, and optimize resource efficiency with AWS Cloud Optimizer. Evaluating a cloud migration decision is very important for a successful cloud migration and adoption. It helps us build a common understanding among the decision makers about the outcomes that they want to achieve with the cloud migration business use case, and also to quantify the cost associated with the migration and ultimately converge on a migration decision, right? Based on all these data points, customers can choose, right, whether it makes economical business sense for them to migrate to Amazon Cloud. I think one of the important things when we talk about the cloud migration is not just the migration and the cost. The people, process, and change management is essentially a very, very important, key parts of the whole cloud migration process. In understanding the cloud concepts, right? The price, the cloud procurement mechanism. How is it different from the on-premise IT procurement, forecasting, and budgeting on the cloud? How does cloud satisfies the regulatory requirements of the customer, especially the public sector workloads? Visibility into the cost when the customer runs their application on AWS Cloud, and also the licensing impact, right? When customers move their applications to cloud, I think these are all very, very important factors which customers should be aware of, and understanding of these concepts by the customer will really, will be essential to the success of a cloud migration as well. We'll go through a business case methodology. Essentially, it's a mechanism where we quantify the value of the cloud migration, right? What does customer achieve? How do we quantify that value when they migrate from on-premise to AWS Cloud? Essentially, it includes business case, which is essentially comparison of the cost of status quo that is staying on-premise against the cost of operating on AWS Cloud with agility as well as innovation, right? And this will also help energize the migration from a customer standpoint and will help align the cloud migration outcomes with their business goals ultimately. The TCO analysis is done by the AWS Cloud Economics team in this case, using the migration evaluator and discovery. We'll talk about the migration evaluator and discovery in the later slides. And finally, Cloud Economics team along with the AWS account team also helps customer to come up with executive level presentation or business case study which can be presented to the business leaders or decision makers in the customer organizations. If you see here, this is one of the customer, anonymous customer, 5 years total cost of ownership summary, which talks about a comparison of cost of on-premise against AWS in categories like server, storage, network, IT labor, AWS support, right? And essentially for this anonymous customers, running their application on-premise is 45% more expensive comparing to if they run their application on AWS Cloud. So these are the data points, right? So this is essentially collecting those data points, create a business case which should make sense for customer to move to the AWS Cloud. Based on this 125 customer business cases here, estimate has derived which says that cost saving ranges between 26 to 49%. And all of you may be asking, right, how is it that the cost of running application on AWS Cloud is less? How do we achieve that? There are various mechanisms available which AWS Cloud provides to the customer that will help them reduce the cost of running their applications on AWS Cloud. Starting with the right sizing of the instances, evaluating the performance and utilization data of the servers, storage, in terms of CPU, RAM, IOPS, storage. These data points will give customer visibility into what their application is using, and they'll be able to optimize and right size the instance and storage based on this continuously data being monitored, right? Economies of scale allows AWS to lower the prices of services year over year, and not the and at the same time, it also allows customer to provide the quick path to upgrade to the latest version or latest generation of the processors as well as the hypervisors. So you are not really stuck with older generations of processors and hypervisors. So when customers are running on AWS Cloud, they are also getting the benefit of quickly migrating and moving to the latest generation of these processors and hypervisors. And I think another important mechanism here is the flexible pricing model. So AWS offers customer a pricing model where they can trade their fixed revenue, right, fixed expenses of running their on-premise data center with the variable expense that they will incur on the AWS Cloud in this case. And how does they do that? AWS provide multiple pricing models here, starting with on-demand pricing model, where customer can plan to use and incur only per hour and per second pricing. So they are not committed. So they will be charged based on the number of hours and number of seconds they will use the compute resources in this case. And similarly is the case for storage as well. Right, and so the next one is the savings plan as well as the RI plans, which help customer reduce the cost of running their application by up to 72% with the discounts, and with 1 year and 3 year commitments, right? Another pricing model, I think we have seen customers leveraging the spot pricing model and reducing their cost up to 90% comparing to the on-demand pricing model. This will help customers request for the EC2 instances from a spare capacity or spare pool of EC2 instances at 90% reduced cost comparing to on-premise on-demand instances. When we talk about business case, it essentially consists of 3 things. We discover and map the current IT estate, calculate the total cost of ownership, and quantify the business value. We'll quickly go through each one of them. I think you must be familiar with all this. So when we talk about discovering and mapping the on-premise IT infrastructure estate, it essentially includes the facilities cost, cost of space, power, cooling, cost of licenses, licensing of hypervisors, licenses of operating systems, databases, softwares, bandwidth cost, right? Networking licenses. So all these costs are part of the on-premise IT estate, along with the hardware, server, rack, switches, storage disks, network switches. So essentially, when it comes to on-premise IT estate, a customer is actually incurring cost on all these cost items that you are seeing on the screen. The outcome of this discovery process and mapping process is the inventory creation along with the cost and usage of the IT infrastructure. And ideally, it should be, it should be the current, complete, and correct, right? So I think these are important factors when we are discovering that IT infrastructure on-premise. We should we recommend that we should be doing it on the current, right? It should be complete, it should be correct, right? If we don't give the complete picture, the outcome of the business value would not be the one that actually will give the actual picture or real picture to the customer. AWS Migration Evaluator is a tool, right, that is used for the discovery of on-premise IT infrastructure. And the way it works is an agentless collector is there that can be run on customer on-premise data center or a third-party data center where the customer is running its application. And it will help collect those time series performance data for the customer applications, right, along with certain other things. And recommendation is that we run it for the 4 weeks so that the application usage pattern for a monthly cycle is captured in order to right size the instances, in order to figure out what are the number of peak hours, what are the number of off-peak hours, what are the number of peak days versus off-peak days. I think all those things are important, which we get the view from the data collected by the agentless collector here. In certain scenarios, we have seen that customer has some kind of limitations because of which they are not able to run this agentless collector in their data center. In those cases, customer can provide the data in the predefined format, and as this will go as an input to the migration evaluator. So both the options are available. This option will give a better picture, the actual, the 3 points that we talked about, right? Current, correct, and complete. Whereas that data will also bring us, we will be able to create the report, TCO report out of that, but it would be more of a high level CPU, RAM, storage utilization versus the time series data that is being collected by agentless collector in this case. This is more about why we insist on time series study of the utilization. This will help us right size the instances, right? Now in this case, you will see here, because of the data that we have, utilization data, we'll be able to reduce the size of the instance, which is more like a right sizing, because of which the pricing of the application hosting will goes down by 50% in this case. With all the mechanisms available for cost optimizations with the customer on AWS Cloud, the total cost of ownership can be reduced drastically, as you are seeing in this graph. And essentially what happens is, when customers start using more cloud, right? When the cloud usage increases, the cost of hosting their application goes further down in this case. So this Cloud Economics team, right, has those migration specialists and business case specialists that work with the customers, right, on a one-to-one engagement basis, and they help customer first of all discover that existing IT footprint, and based on that they take that as an input and they generate this total cost of ownership analysis, and they come up with this business value and CFM reports based on that. For customers, you can always reach out to your AWS account teams, and they'll be more than happy to connect you with the Cloud Economics team, and so that can be worked out really quickly. I think this is more like the job of this Cloud Economics team is to help customers identify the business value of how does it look like when they migrate their applications to AWS Cloud to create those business cases. I think this is just a sample output that you are seeing here, showing one of the TCO analysis that we have seen on another slide as well. These are the steps that Cloud Economics team takes, starting with the first call. Then we gather the data, as we talked about, right, using the migration evaluator tool or using a fixed predefined format. This team does the analysis of that data and come up with the TCO analysis comparison along with the business value, and then this can be presented to the customer business leaders and decision makers. Apart from the Cloud Economics team, we also have AWS migration competency partners that can help customers work with the customers directly, and they will be able to provide the same same actions like discovery and planning, identifying the total cost of ownership, and business case analysis. Idea is to scale for the customers, right? You have both the partners as well as Cloud Economics team available with you in order to start with this process. Quantifying a business value. I think this is the whole objective why we are talking about, how do we know that migration to AWS Cloud for a customer makes sense or doesn't make sense. We want to quantify that value. And how do we do that? We have seen, right, for the businesses and companies in which, that the value realization is across these four categories, 4 dimensions, right? Not just the cost saving. It talks about staff productivity, operational resilience, and business agility as well. And similar is the case. So this is the operational resiliency benchmark essentially. This is again how do you quantify the operational resilience based on the 1,000+ customers here? The data and feedback that we got from the customer, there is a decrease in downtime, decrease in total monthly incidents, a decrease in the mean time to resolution that these customers have experienced, and that is how we quantify this operational resilience. And by the way, this operational resilience is one of the pillars or one of the dimensions of the total cost of ownership. A similar is the staff productivity estimates in this case, and you'll see here, right, based on this data collected from the customers, there's an increase in the staff productivity that happens because of that. Customer is able to save the number of hours that employee otherwise have to spend on the undifferentiated heavy lifting in terms of working on server configurations and other things. Rather, they can focus on delivering the actual business value for the customer. With that, I'll invite my friend Vikas Bhadwaj on the stage to take you further.
Thanks, Sanjeev. So hello, everyone. My name is Vikas Bharadwaj. So now, taking this talk forward, let's also see what are the major contributions from a cost perspective when we move to AWS Cloud. And I would like to start with estimating and reducing the cost from a migration standpoint. And if you see from a migration standpoint, I would first of all like to do a small poll that how many of you really thinks that while moving to AWS Cloud, the major contribution will be a migration cost? How many, you can please raise your hand, that you really think that this is a real challenge and the most of the cost will really go in the migration effort only? From an effort perspective as well as from a cost perspective, this is a complex stuff. Only one person thinks like that? Okay, cool. So anyway, whenever we make changes to the existing setup, existing infrastructure, existing softwares, existing whatever the workload we are running, one of the major contribution is the success depends upon the migration, right? How smoothly we can do the migration, how we can get more value out of the target infrastructure or target platform. The success completely depends upon the migration that we consider. And when we estimate the migration cost, labor is just one thing, that the people who are actually involved in doing the installations, people who are already involved in terms of doing the data migrations, writing those scripts, ensuring that, yes, data has been migrated properly, application is working smoothly. That is just one part of it. Labor cost is just one part of it. There are other factors also which are listed out here. You will be certainly investing in some more tools for the migration purpose. There will be more trainings required. Suppose you are, this is the kind of existing workload you're taking to AWS Cloud, then certainly maybe the team is not well equipped with the cloud skills. They need trainings. There will be other cost involved. The current workload, if it is running in a colos facility, there can be additional cost involved in that. There will be additional cost from a AMCs which exist today from a hardware and software perspective. That all, if you sum up, it becomes like a huge cost as a migration cost, isn't it? So from that perspective, if I say whenever you migrate your workloads from on-premise or from your existing facilities to AWS Cloud, there is a migration cost bubble that you see. This migration cost bubble is a significant cost. You may not realize the benefit of cloud immediately. You may say that, yes, you have promised me that this will reduce cost by X numbers, X percentage, but actually my bill is increasing. I am investing more money right now. So how do we reduce that? So there are programs that I'm going to talk about. There are approaches that you can think of that will actually minimize this migration cost buffer. So to start with that, the first one is AWS Migration Acceleration Program. So AWS Migration Acceleration Program is actually a package of multiple things. See, there are thousands of successful enterprise scale migrations that AWS team has done along with their partners. Okay? So as part of this MAP program, you get access to those teams. You get access to the tools that we recommend. We give best practices to do these migrations. So that migration bubble shrinks actually, okay? We also have, in addition to this, access to AWS professional services. AWS professional services, the set of people who have done these migrations, who can give you the right kind of approach to do these migrations from your on-premise, taking care of all the risks that can be involved, and doing these migrations smoothly, and realizing the benefits quite smoothly and easily and at an early stage. Also, there are financial incentives as part of this program, that when you consider a specific type of workloads or maybe certain workloads which requires some maybe migration time or maybe some kind of development phase, refactoring phase, that there are financial incentives that can be given as part of this program as well. So overall, the objective is that we need to do the migrations in a smooth manner, taking care of the best practices and leveraging all the kind of financial incentives which are available for you. The other things from a migration cost and a AWS programs perspective, one is the OLA assessment that you see here, that is optimization and licensing assessment. This particular assessment actually tells you what are your existing licenses that you can take to AWS Cloud as well. As part of bring your own license kind of approach if you want to have with respect to your workloads. What are the licenses that will work as it is? What are the optimization possibilities exist from a licensing perspective? There may be licenses which are running, you maybe procured some enterprise scale licenses, maybe standard can also work in that case. There may be licenses which are unused. Bring your own license comes later, but there are licenses that those are unused. The licensing terms with respect to products changes on a cloud platform. So this tool really helps us in identifying that what is the right approach, right optimized approach from a licensing perspective that we can take. There are promotional credits also available. These promotional credits can be taken care in a development phase, in a migration phase, in a stabilization phase. And once you move to the cloud, there are approaches which will help you in terms of further optimizing your cost. This further optimization is from a perspective, first of all, the right sizing of your EC2 instances, the right sizing and the right kind of saving plan or a reserved instance plan, which is a commitment based on once the stabilization is there, you have migrated your workloads, that you give a commitment from a perspective that this is the minimal uses I am committing from a cost perspective or from a resources perspective. You get some 30-40% reduction in your costs. And there are other programs. You can always talk to your account teams from AWS representatives working with you, and they can let you know the different programs running. Training programs are there, which can certainly minimize that migration cost bubble. Okay. With that, one more important aspect, see, the right kind of methodology that need to be chosen for a particular workload is also important, that will reduce your migration cost. See, this is our 7 hours methodology for migration. For any workload, we can fit into one of this category, that how this migration need to be done. So maybe I'll just give you one example that the customer may always ask, like maybe the refactoring is the one that I prefer for a particular workload. Where is a monolithic application today, I want to go with a microservices-based approach here because that gives me better business value. That makes me more agile. That gives me more flexibility in terms of making more changes and making my end users more happy. So that is one thing, but that is like something that will increase your migration bubble, right? There will be significant investment that will go, significant effort that will go. You will realize the benefit at a later stage. So what we will recommend is you do a lift and shift first. What is mentioned here as a rehosting. Rehosting or lift and shift is the one that you can do, and then take a strategic approach in terms of modifying or modernizing your applications. Similarly, there are approaches like if you're running your applications currently on a VMware platform, that VMware applications can be taken as it is to a VMC on AWS platform. So that is VMware Cloud on AWS. No changes happens, a smooth approach, okay? So this is a complete list from a refactor, replatform, repurpose, rehost, relocate, retire, and retain perspective. So under 7 hours, we prefer to categorize all the applications that you have, and we also evaluate from a migration effort perspective and complexity involved perspective that what is the right kind of approach for each application. So with that, migration is addressed. Sanjeev already talked about like what are the initial level assessments you can do in terms of doing a right sizing at initial level. Now, once the migration is done, what are the more optimization options which are available? So we have something called a AWS Cost Optimizer, which has different kind of categories in which we can see how the utilizations are happening on cloud. What are the further spaces that is where we can optimize the workloads from two perspectives, one from a cost perspective and another from a performance perspective. Cost is like whatever the investments has gone into this, have we realized the business value out of it or not? Or is there something that we need to change our approach? And from a performance optimization perspective, this is about whether the right kind of performance numbers are met with the kind of instances I have selected, the kind of storage I have selected. Or this is basically if it is under provisioned or over provisioned. find out that, and take a calculative approach in terms of right-sizing it after that. So how does it work? It is the cost optimizer, or especially in that, the compute optimizer part that I'll talk about, that is having an ARR kind of approach. It analyzes, it by default, at no additional cost, it analyzes your 14 days utilization data, and based on analysis, it creates a report that I see this is your current utilization, and then it gives recommendations. Recommendations with respect to right-sizing your EC2 instances, doing right kind of selection for the EBS volumes, the storage volumes that you have, also considering network utilizations, also considering some of the serverless services that we have. Okay, so from all that perspective, with the ARR approach, we'll keep seeing in some screenshots also that it has analyze, report, and then do the recommendations. These recommendations are not just at a level that we can also do while seeing in it, putting the data in an Excel sheet and doing a small analysis. This is having some ML-based algorithms also in the backend, which will consider not only the peak utilization, but overall patterns of the utilizations. People keep asking, customer keep asking, are you considering my peak window or not? Are you still sticking to the average utilizations? This is mostly based on the patterns. Maybe the peak comes just once in a month, and that too for a very short duration. We know from a memory utilization perspective, there can be workloads, database workloads especially, which will keep your memory always occupied, right? We know that kind of patterns, the ML algorithm knows that, and give you the best recommendation that what is the right size that can be given. Going further with this, that this compute optimizer, which is compute-related part of the cost optimizer, that integrates with multiple other services also. So suppose you are, the recommendations that it has generated, first of all, you can download it, you can take it for further approvals, you can take it for a further analysis also, put it into S3 buckets. You can also see when you are seeing your EC2 dashboard, that this particular instance is actually having a recommendation. You are actually running it undersized or oversized, okay? When you integrate it with, you see with your systems manager console, so systems manager is giving you the operational data versus the recommendation data. At the same place, you can do the comparisons. So that integration with other services is also possible. And when we talk about EC2 right sizing, there are 4 areas under which this analysis actually happens. So as part of analyze and reporting, so the analysis is happening in 4 areas. One is the compute capability. What is the CPU utilization that I am seeing from a historical data perspective? Memory capabilities, what are the memory utilizations? Then network performance, network utilizations and the network performance that you are getting. EBS volumes related data that may be directly attached or part of the instance data as well, instance storage as well. So this is one of the example for Amazon EC2 instances related recommendations, if you see. So again, first thing is it analyzes, this is the current state. It is a M5 2x large instance with 8 vCPUs and 32 GB RAM. The analysis results, the report shows that the utilization is 40% CPU utilization during the day, 10% utilization at the night time. The memory utilization is somewhere around 30%. There is very less network utilization and very less IOPS that it need. That is the report that is generated. Now, the recommendation generated out of it, along with the kind of risk that is involved. Because I can give you a number of recommendations, but the ML algorithm is telling me which one is the low risk, high risk, medium risk kind of recommendation. You can take a calculative decision based on that. So the first option is I can downsize this particular sizing to a instance which is not, which is actually not M5 2x large, which is M5x large. So downsizing it, I am able to meet the same amount of network. I am able to get 50% savings, and this is a low risk kind of decision, option that I have. The next one, which is having a medium risk involved with it, that is with a T type of instance. T, we know like it is a busted capacity. It's not a committed CPU capacity that you get out here. So there is a medium risk involved here. If that peak comes and that much CPU is not available, that's why you see there is a medium risk involved here. But that again gives you further savings. It goes up to 57%. Then there is the option 3. Option 3 is I'm actually consider just 2 vCPU, 16 GB RAM. I'm actually reducing by 25% on the vCPU. That's why you see there is a medium level of risk involved here. But still your workload can run on this. You can take like whichever option suits you with respect to the savings, with respect to the risk. You can choose one of that. So the question is like, can the system be dynamic enough to see my utilizations today and maybe tomorrow I may need more? So the answer is yes, there are more capabilities available. We are just talking right now from a 14 days perspective. You might not be capturing your peak window in that. There are options to go up to 3 months data also to give you better recommendations. And also you can take care of auto scaling features, which will help you. In auto scalings, there are multiple options also available. We can talk after the session also on that, where you can mix different type of instances also to meet your spikes requirements. So the next one is EBS recommendations, that from a block storage perspective, what kind of recommendations are available. So if you see here, the current state is that it is a IO1 type of volume. These are the kind of findings that it has. And I have the options available for that either I can go with the IO1 with the less number of IOPS or IO2 option with less number of IOPS, because those many number of IOPS are not getting used. From a Lambda perspective, see, Lambda, I may have requirements that has more number of CPU requirements, but the CPU you cannot directly give to Lambda functions. So CPU comes in the ratio of memory. So what is the memory, that is the right size of memory that you need to give. And there can be scenarios where memory is actually oversized. I have given more memory, but that much is not getting reused. So from both the perspective, this analyzes based on the historical data that has been captured and gives a right sizing for the Lambda functions also. If you see in this particular example, the current memory is 128 MB for each execution, but the right one, the recommended one, is 160 MB. This particular service is available in Mumbai region and in multiple other regions for all our customers who are operating their workloads in Mumbai region. This service is available. They can leverage it. The new features with respect to this. So from a new features perspective, we always keep taking feedbacks from our customers, and we keep improving based on the feedbacks that we get. So some of the new features that has come with the cost optimizer is, one is that recommendations for the Graviton processors. So the Graviton processor, many people for running their Linux workloads, they prefer Graviton processors with respect to the performance and the cost that they get, cost benefits that they get. So you can choose your platform also. When doing this cost optimization assessments, you can choose that I want to have a platform based on Graviton processors. It will consider that. It will show you that what is the cost benefit you will get, how much percentage of benefit it will give, and how the performance statistics will look like. Okay. Then the other set of features which has come is clearer visibility into the top priorities. So maybe I have multiple accounts, I have multiple services. Which one is the top workloads that I can optimize from a compute, storage, or Lambda functions perspective? Okay, and then I have longer matrices also available, going like which may cover monthly peaks or quarterly peaks as well. So this is the first one. It gives recommendations based on if you want to move out of your x86 platform, want to go over the Graviton processor-based architecture for Linux workloads. It can give recommendations for the right kind of Graviton processor instances. So like you see in this particular screen right now, you can select that I am looking for a Graviton processor architecture. It can give you recommendations, and it can tell you what kind of cost benefits and the current price and versus the recommended price that you will get once you move to the Graviton processor-based instances, and the price difference that is available. Similarly, the statistics that I was talking about, that the current utilizations can be at this particular scale, and how it will be when you move to Graviton processor. So going further, there is also the introduction to resource efficiency matrices. As I was telling that you can get that a consolidated report that overall this much of cost benefit is possible in your environment. If you see, there is like saving opportunity up to 26% in terms of numbers also, how many dollars you can save. And this is like based on the EBS volumes, Lambda, and EC2 instances, that what is the kind of benefit you can get. That is a cost benefit. What is the performance? So for performance, that I may have oversized or undersized, over-provisioned or under-provisioned kind of resources. What does it mean? So the consolidated report that you can see as part of your Cost Explorer. And one thing that I was talking about, that you can capture your monthly and quarterly peaks also, which was earlier with the 14 days utilizations only. So with that, let me do a quick recap what we discussed in this particular session. See, knowing this current infrastructure, knowing the current utilization, creating a business case is very important, right? We should know that from where we are starting. The next thing comes in that realizing the benefits of cloud, it is not just the TCO. TCO is one part where we do say that we will get 50% cost reduction, 40% cost reductions, these benefits will come. But there are also other aspects. Staff productivity improves. We can always see that how many total hours that are getting used, okay? That my staff is occupied. I'll have network experts, I'll have storage experts, compute experts, virtualization experts who will be working around the clock to keep my setup up and running. Then there are also business agility which is coming up, resiliency that you are able to build up. So if you see the overall impact, overall benefit versus the cost, all these factors need to be considered. In addition to this, I talked about the migration cost, that how you can reduce your migration cost, leverage the MAP program, this is Migration Acceleration Program, leverage the kind of different programs which are available for a cost optimization, license analysis perspective. You can talk to your account managers, AWS representatives, they can direct you with that to the right kind of thing. And then we talked about the cost optimizer. So cost optimizer definitely gives us cost benefits. Cost benefits from a perspective of compute, storage, Lambda functions, analyze, report, and then see the recommendations, and then take the actions. Okay, so with that, there are also learning platforms that we recommend. You can go to AWS Skill Builder, the top skills which are available, you can see them. There is AWS certifications. You can get certified. There are lots of certifications which are available. Let me thank you, all of you, for attending this particular session. And there are more things lined up for today. Immediately after this is our keynote session that you all will be attending. Would like to thank you all once again for giving your time today. And with that, please give your feedbacks. As I mentioned, we take your feedbacks very seriously. We'll be looking forward. Myself and Sanjeev are around. If you have more questions around this, more questions around migrations, more questions around how do I migrate, how do I consider my current cost versus the cloud benefits that I'll get, please talk to us. Okay? We are around for the full day. Please feel free to talk to us. Thank you very much. Thank you.